It's time to settle in and let the day drift away. You're listening to Slumberish, where gentle stories help you find your way to dreamland. If you enjoy my content, feel free to subscribe and drop a comment below. Now, close your eyes and let's begin our journey. A faint glow warms the eastern horizon long before the sun properly rises, casting feathery outlines along the shoreline. I begin to sense the magnitude of this place as I arrive. A wide, deserted beach where silver gray waves roll in constant repetition, and the hush of the incoming tide sets an immediate tone of reverence. It feels like a place outside of time, where footsteps vanish as soon as they're made. No footprints remain from yesterday, and none of mine will last until tomorrow. A sheer rock formation towers to the north, slick with morning mist that condenses on its ridges and trickles down in silent streams. My breath carries a slight tremble from the coolness of dawn. The hush here seems so alive that it resonates under my skin, a kind of low vibration that settles between my heartbeat and the pulse of the ocean. I notice a small, winding path leading towards a stone shrine perched at the edge of the beach, half buried in wind-blown dunes. Up close, the shrine appears weathered by centuries. Its stones are etched with symbols that might have once been letters, but now they're half obliterated by salt air and shifting sands. Ivy-like seawood trails, entangled whorls along the base, making it difficult to see where the shrine ends and the natural earth begins. There's a modest archway opening inward, large enough for a single person to enter. When I lean closer, I detect the scent of damp stone and faint incense, as if previous visitors had once burned offerings here, perhaps in devotion to something the ocean once embodied. In the early morning light, I cross the threshold into that small chamber. My eyes adjust slowly. The ceiling is low and curved, reminiscent of a seashell turned upside down. Flickers of leftover candle wax cling to shallow alcoves, evidence of earlier rituals. Though no flames burn now, I can imagine how this place might look at night, lit by the soft dance of candlelight. My fingertips graze the stone wall, feeling ridges worn smooth over countless years. Each groove tells a quiet story of time passing. I notice a worn path of footprints leading away from the shrine, heading down the beach towards the waterline. Curious, I follow the gentle slope, letting my feet sink into fine sand that grows moister as I approach the tide. The waves crest with a quiet rush, each arrival carrying the hush of rolling foam. A swirl of brine encircles my ankles, cool and awakening. Tiny shells and fragments of sea glass reflect a pale shimmer in the water, catching stray rays of dawn. I let the ocean exhale against my skin, as though it's greeting me in mutual recognition. Standing there, I sense the subdued lull of the morning tide, still mild and unhurried. Each wave is a small invitation to let the hush settle deeper into my awareness. I close my eyes for a moment, focusing solely on the motion of the sea. My breathing slips into sync with the water's steady in and out rhythm, a gentle cycle that carries me into a half meditative calm. Time thins in this hush, where each moment stretches softly into the next. Light intensifies by degrees, and the sun's rim appears over the horizon, bathing the water in subtle gold. The shrine behind me becomes silhouetted, a dark shape against the brightening sky. I sense that it holds stories older than the memory of any single person, tales of watchers, wanderers, and devotions once offered in secrecy. It's as though every whisper breathed in this place lingers somewhere among these stones, echoing softly along the folds of the morning air. Gulls drift overhead, crossing the boundary between sea and sky in languid arcs. Their cries sound distant and small against the ocean's deeper murmur. I imagine they, too, feel the draw of this hush, the same ancient pull that guides me along the shore. My footsteps leave shallow impressions behind me, soon erased by the softest wave that slides ashore. There is something comforting in this impermanence, a reminder that everything from footprints to memories eventually dissolves back into the vastness. The beach extends far to the south, where low dunes frame a path of sea grass. I wander in that direction, noticing how the grasses shift from dull green to a reflective silver when the wind blows. They remind me of ephemeral dancers, bowing each time a stronger gust sweeps across the shore. The path meanders gently, leading me away from the shrine for now, drawing me into a landscape of rolling sand ridges and scattered driftwood. As I walk, the hush of the place gradually envelops me, muffling any internal chatter that might have followed me here. My thoughts slow, becoming more like quiet reflections than the usual swirl of concerns. A sense of smallness emerges, not in a fearful way, but in a comforting realization that my presence here is just one point of awareness in a grand mosaic of ocean, sand, and sky. Eventually, I come upon a small outcropping of rock that juts from the dunes. The stone is pocked with shallow tide pools, still clinging to the previous night's high water. Tiny creatures, small crabs, snails, and anemones live in these miniature worlds, sealed off from the larger sea until the tides return. I squat down and gently touch the surface of a tide pool, feeling that it's surprisingly warm under the new sun. Microcosms of life pulse beneath my fingertips. Each small world reflects a fractal of the greater ocean's rhythms. A breeze shifts, carrying the briny scent of seaweed and something else, more subtle. A faint note that suggests old incense. I realize it's drifting from the shrine's direction, as if the stones themselves exhale the memory of past ceremonies whenever the wind is right. I rise from the tide pool, drawn again toward that silent beacon on the beach. The hush deepens inside me, a mild ache of anticipation. Perhaps there is something I meant to discover within those ancient walls. Returning to the shore, I notice that the tide is already a bit higher, each wave lapping closer to the dunes. My footsteps from earlier have vanished. The sun has climbed overhead illuminating the shrine's stone facade with a softer midday glow. I find myself hesitating at the entrance, strangely aware of an unseen presence. Whether it's purely my imagination or some intangible spirit bound to this place, I can't be certain. Regardless, I step inside once again. Inside, the space feels warmer than before, as though the stone walls have absorbed the day's rising temperature. My eyes adjust to the dim interior light. A faint shimmer lines the ceiling, possibly from mineral deposits or the residue of old lantern smoke. I run my hands over a small stone ledge where I find fragments of seashells, bits of driftwood, and a single, half-melted candle. Each item seems like an offering, tokens left by nameless wanderers who felt compelled to lay something of themselves at this place. The hush is nearly tangible, carrying a sense of devotion that transcends any single faith or ceremony. I breathe slowly, letting the quiet fill my lungs. The air is slightly thick with salt, incense, and the ghost of sea breezes. I imagine faint voices in the corners, though no sound emerges. Instead, the echo is one of memory, resonating like a distant chord that still lingers, even after the original music has ended. A simple archway on the far side leads to a smaller annex, partially collapsed. I duck under the low threshold. Within, soft beams of daylight filter through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating the interior in drifting motes of dust. A round stone basin lies at the center, rimmed with sea salt that crystallizes into feathery patterns. A thin trickle of water drips into the basin from an unseen source, creating a slow, rhythmic plink. That gentle sound feels like the heartbeat of this shrine. While exploring this annex, I came across a crumbling alcove. A faint line of shadow suggests that it once housed something significant. Perhaps a statue or a carved pillar. The floor is littered with broken stone shards, each etched with partial symbols. I pick up one small fragment and note a curved line that might have been part of a larger figure. My mind conjures visions of robed silhouettes or sea deities that may have guided the shrine's worship. A subtle waft of incense, deeper and more present than before, drifts across the space. I notice a small clay bowl tucked into a corner, containing the burned remnants of something that still smolders slightly. It's warm to the touch, which is surprising given the shrine's apparent abandonment. Could there be another visitor? Someone quietly tending to this place? The idea resonates with me. A caretaker who arrives unseen, maintaining the hush of these stones. The dripping water in the basin forms a gentle percussion, each drop echoing off the curved walls. In that rhythmic hush, I decide to rest. Lowering myself to the floor, my back leans against the cool stone, and I let my eyes wander across the broken ceiling overhead. Through a gap, I see a slice of sky, intense blue against the dark of the shrine's interior. A faint gull passes, a white fleck in that azure corridor, and then disappears from view. Time feels unhurried here. The hush wraps around my senses like a comforting shroud. I'm aware of my own heartbeat, the drip of water into the basin, and the faint swirl of incense smoke that curls around the edges of my vision. My breathing steadies into a soft, measured cadence. In that lull, memories from my daily life, worries, tasks, passing fears, gradually slip away. There is a subtle recollection that arises, fleeting moments of calm from earlier in my life, times when I felt inexplicably close to something transcendent. A starlit sky in childhood, a hidden garden behind an old house, the hush of a cathedral at dusk. Each memory hovers, then dissolves into the present hush. I feel a kinship with all those who once found shelter in this shrine, drawn by the same longing for stillness amid a chaotic world. Eventually, I notice the warm pressure of sunlight shifting on my skin. The day outside must be marching on, and yet it's easy to lose track of the hour. The hush seems to expand in the annex, as if the outside world recedes into faint murmur. Perhaps evening is approaching, or perhaps it's only midday. I can't tell, nor do I wish to. In this moment, the boundaries of time blur in the face of a deeper calm. When I finally step outside, a hush of astonishment overtakes me. The light is already softer, tinted with the first pastel shades of dusk. I must have lingered in that annex far longer than I realized. The ocean now gleams in lavender and gray, reflecting the changing sky. The tide has rolled in significantly, creeping close to the shrine's outer wall. A warm breeze caresses my skin, carrying the faint cry of distant seabirds. In the west, the sun dips below a line of thick clouds, painting the horizon in dusky purples and gold. The entire beach feels saturated with a heavy hush, as though day and night share a delicate overlap. My gaze turns back to the shrine, noticing how the stones seem to absorb the twilight colors, shifting from golden to deep lilac in subtle increments. I walk towards the water again, my footsteps making faint indentations that glow momentarily in the low angle light. The waves have grown a touch bolder, though they still maintain the same gentle rhythm. Each push onto the shore ends in a slow retreat, drawing pebbles and shells in a soft rattle. It's a lullaby of motion, a cyclical hum that resonates down to the morrow. As evening settles, I spy small flickers of light along the far edge of the beach. Intrigued, I head in that direction, weaving between pockets of tall grass that rustle in the breeze. The flickers reveal themselves to be paper lanterns, each perched on thin metal stakes driven into the sand. Their glow is subtle, pale orbs that glisten faintly. They form a loose path leading deeper down the shoreline. I follow these lanterns in quiet wonder. There's something ceremonial about them, as if they were placed to guide a traveler through the night. The hush intensifies around me, and I feel my pulse slow in tandem with the gentle bob of each lantern's flame. Soon the paper lanterns lead me to a broader clearing in the dunes, partially enclosed by driftwood logs arranged in a half circle. At the center stands a solitary, larger lantern, flickering more brightly. No one else seems present, yet everything about this setup suggests a prepared space, maybe for a vigil or a private ritual. Seagrass waves gently at the clearing's perimeter, and the sand here is ridged with old tide lines. I feel an undercurrent of invitation, as though the place welcomes me to pause. So I do. I settle on a driftwood log, letting the hush cradle me. Sitting there, I'm aware of the ocean's consistent background hush, the paper lantern swaying lightly in the breeze, and the subtle hum of nighttime insects that awaken in the dunes. The sky overhead shifts through the delicate shades of violet and indigo. High above, early stars peek out, twinkling in the gaps between lingering clouds. This transitional hour between day and night holds an almost sacred quality, as if the world is exhaling. In the distance, I hear a faint, low tone that might be wind passing through a rocky outcrop, or the echo of a conch-like instrument. It's too soft to identify, but it sets my nerves tingling with a sense of hidden wonders. The hush here is no longer empty. It's filled with potential, like a canvas ready for the next brushstroke of experience. I breathe in deeply, letting my lungs fill with the briny air. A wave of calm seeps through my limbs, encouraging me to stay a while longer. I recall the small clay bowl of incense in the shrine. That memory merges with the gentle glow of these lanterns, weaving a thread of continuity. Perhaps someone tends both spaces, quietly leaving signs of reverence that travelers like me can stumble upon. It reassures me that I'm not alone in seeking solace, that others, too, feel drawn to this hush-laden beach. Time drifts once again, and the lanterns become my primary light source. The ocean has receded a touch, revealing a wider swath of sand. This cyclical pull reminds me that, even as night settles in, the tides continue their own dance, indifferent to human concerns. The hush underscores an awareness that life's rhythms persist, whether they are observed or not. I rest my hands on the driftwood log, the texture of worn bark and bleached grain reassuring under my palms. My thoughts wander through fleeting recollections, faces of friends, the memory of a lost relative, the comforts and worries of daily life. Yet each memory surfaces gently and then dissolves into the ambient hush. The ocean's chorus has a way of smoothing edges, reminding me that the present moment is enough. Without consciously deciding, I lower myself onto the sand, stretching out so that my head rests near the log, eyes turned upward to the emerging stars. The largest lantern flickers near my feet, casting shape-shifting shadows across my torso. A light wind ruffles my hair, carrying the hush of rolling waves in its wake. My muscles relax, releasing tension I hadn't realized I was holding. I sink deeper into the hush, letting the night cradle me. As full darkness settles, the beach grows quieter still, though quiet becomes relative. New layers of sound emerge: the gentle chirp of some distant night bird, the endless swirl of water beneath the moon's reflection, a subdued crackle of flame within the paper lanterns. Overhead, the sky transforms into an immense tapestry of stars, each pinprick shining with its own subtle brilliance. Clouds drift across, forming patterns that momentarily obscure clusters of light, then pass on. A part of me senses a distant presence, akin to a guardian spirit of the shrine or the sea. It's nothing visible, just an undercurrent of awareness that flows with the hush. Perhaps it's the same intangible force that calls some to light lanterns or to place offerings in a hidden chamber. I feel it gently pressing me to rest, to release the final vestiges of tension, and to let my thoughts dissolve into the slow, hypnotic lull of the ocean's nighttime voice. I let my eyelids close for a time. The darkness behind them swirls with afterimages of the lanterns, ghostly spots of light that fade in slow pulses. My breath finds a comfortable rhythm. In that space, the hush becomes a living blanket. Each exhale rides the tide's retreat, and each inhale arrives with the next wave. A faint hum of contentment settles in my chest, as if my heart itself resonates with the cyclical night. At some point, the wind shifts direction. I catch a whisper of something that might be chanting, or low singing carried from farther down the shore. Curious, I open my eyes. The lantern-lit clearing remains empty, but I sense new motion near the water. Rising slowly, I walk a few steps closer to the shoreline. The tide is at medium height now, the waves gently rolling in sets that sparkle under the moonlight. Peering south, I notice additional lights, not just lanterns, but flickers that move along the beach as if held by individuals. Their glow bobs in slow progression. The chanting or singing remains too distant to discern, but it has a melodic undertone, each note blending with the sea's hush. I consider walking in that direction to investigate, but feel an odd reticence. Perhaps these individuals are engaged in a private ritual, and I, a wanderer, might disrupt it. Instead, I linger where I am, listening, letting the subtle chanting become part of the layered hush. The rhythm of the waves and the gentle flares of distant lights converge into something that feels like a nocturnal heartbeat. Even from afar, it soothes me, reinforcing the sense that this beach is a place of collective reverence. Each person who arrives here, whether alone or in a group, steps into the same hush, adding a note to its quiet symphony. Eventually, I feel drawn back to the ancient stones I encountered upon my arrival. The path is marked only by the faint gleam of moonlight reflecting off the wet sand. My footsteps are hushed by the cushion of grains, and the whisper of wind covers any trace of my passing. As I approach the shrine, I notice a soft light emanating from within, perhaps a candle left behind. Stepping inside, I find the main chamber dimly illuminated by a single flame placed in a shallow dish at the center of the floor. The rest of the space remains cast in deep shadow, yet the warm glow dancing along the walls provides enough light to navigate. I see no one else, but there's a new addition on the small ledge, a piece of driftwood carved into the shape of a cresting wave. It sits there, quietly offered. The hush inside the shrine is profound, as though thickened by the weight of centuries. I settle near the candle, closing my eyes to feel the shift in air currents. The candle's warmth mingles with the briny chill from the open doorway. My ears pick up the ocean's steady presence outside, merging with the faint crackle of the flame. A subtle mix of incense lingers, sweetening the salt-tinged air. As my breathing steadies, an image forms in my mind. Currents of water swirling in slow motion, each eddy laced with shimmering phosphorescence. In that vision, the hush of the shrine emerges with oceanic undertones, and I sense a calm that runs deeper than mere silence, a devotion that pulses through the heart of this place. My limbs grow heavy with that relaxation, as though gravity has momentarily increased. I allow my entire body to ease into the stone floor, which is surprisingly smooth from years of foot traffic or the ceaseless caress of wind-blown sand. The hush envelops me, cradling every muscle, every thought, until I feel more like a wave than a solid form. The candle flickers, and in the pulsing glow, shadows ripple across the ceiling. They resemble the specters dancing in a slow waltz. Instead of finding it eerie, I find it comforting, as if I'm witnessing a gentle performance by spirits that inhabit the shrine. My breath aligns with the flicker. In, out, in, out. A lullaby shaped by soft light and warm air. Time slides away once more. The hush intensifies, a near audible hum that seems to arise from the shrine's very foundations. My eyes drift closed of their own accord, lulled by the interplay of stone and gentle flame. Outside, the sea's hush resonates like a cosmic lullaby, each wave a note in the quiet music of night. I let my consciousness hover in the borderland between waking and dreaming, where thoughts lose their shape and merge into pure sensation. In that haze, I half envision a presence in the shrine, not frightening, but serene, perhaps an echo of a robed figure once dedicated to tending those candles and inscriptions. It moves slowly, adjusting the flame, offering silent blessings to any who enter. The hush vibrates with intangible warmth. My mind doesn't question it. Instead, I accept it as part of the sanctuary's timeless tapestry. I sense my heartbeat slowing. Each inhale feels smoother. Each exhale, a mild release of whatever tension remains. The hush transforms into a tide of comfort, buoying me like water. My breath becomes a whisper of waves on a shoreline, slipping in and out with metronomic grace. Eyes closed, I drift deeper into the cradle of slumber, letting the hush saturate every cell. Sometime later, though I have no reference for how much time has passed, I stir slightly. A subtle shift in temperature touches my face, as though a mild breeze has found its way inside. I open my eyes to see that the candle has nearly burned out. its flame reduced to a trembling glow. Yet the shrine remains bathed in delicate moonlight, filtering through the doorway. I gather the sense that outside, the moon stands high, perhaps nearing its zenith. The hush continues, unabated, a constant companion. Rising gently, I slip outside, wanting to see the shore under the full splendor of midnight. My footsteps on the threshold echo softly. The night sky greets me with a sprawl of stars, each glinting like a silent hymn overhead. The ocean's surface mirrors those celestial sparks in restless fractals. Walking closer to the water, I feel a wave of gratitude for existing in this moment, in this hush. The tide is lower now, revealing patterns of seashells and gentle ridges in the sand. Here and there, small tidal pools shimmer with moonlight, creating miniature galaxies beneath my feet. A sense of cosmic unity wells up in my chest, as if each tiny pool is a reflection of the vast sky, bridging the infinite with the intimate. I pause by one of these tidal pools, crouching to watch phosphorescent specks glisten around the edges. They look like tiny constellations set adrift in shallow water. My fingertip traces an arc, and they glow more intensely for a moment, reacting to the movement. Their luminescence flickers out, returning to quiet sparks. It's an exquisite secret known only to those who wander these shores at the right hour. Lifting my gaze, I notice the faint silhouette of the shrine behind me, a steadfast guardian even in the darkest phase of night. Its ancient stones blend into the dunes, lit only by the soft wash of moonlight. A lull in the wind allows me to hear the subtlest detail of each wave as it crumbles onto the shore, like a deep, resonant breath that sustains all life here. There's an inexplicable fullness in my chest, a gentle ache that feels like longing or devotion, yet free from any particular need. It's as though the hush has replaced all impulses with a single resonant presence. In that presence, I am both alone and profoundly connected to everything around me. The drifting clouds, the swaying dune grass, the distant chanting or singing that emerges now and then from parts unseen. At length, I realize fatigue settling in more heavily, a natural, peaceful drowsiness that goes beyond ordinary tiredness. My body seeks deeper rest. The hush of the environment offers itself as a perfect bed for that rest. Instead of returning to the shrine's interior, I decide to remain closer to the ocean, craving the direct lullaby of the tide. I find a smooth patch of sand near the upper reach of the waves, far enough to avoid getting drenched when the tide eventually turns again. Lying down, I let my head rest on my folded arms. The sand still holds a faint warmth from earlier in the day, and the air around me is mild enough to cradle me with ease. Overhead, a wide canopy of stars pulses with soft radiance, and the moon hangs like a watchful eye. Each wave's approach and retreat forms the slowest, most soothing music. I visualize the entire ocean breathing with me, carrying away any tension that tries to linger. The hush seeps further into my mind, each breath loosening the boundary between wakefulness and slumber. A faint, melodic tone, perhaps only in my imagination, brushes the edges of my hearing weaving itself into the hush like an overtone. If it's real, it might be the sea itself singing into the night. My eyelids grow too heavy to keep open. The star field drifts out of focus, dissolving into gentle shadows. I feel the hush of my lungs, my bones, my thoughts, until every sense becomes a soft hum. This final surrender carries no fear, just a tender acceptance that sleep is a gift offered by this ancient, ocean-bound sanctuary. Before I slip fully into that velvet darkness, I sense a quiet presence passing along the shore. Maybe a lone figure holding a lantern, or perhaps an echo of the watchers who once worshipped in the shrine. They are too distant to disturb me, merely part of this greater hush that weaves all living things together. My last conscious breath emerges with the hush, drifting effortlessly into sleep. I dream of waves that sparkle with luminescent ribbons, each ribbon forming a path toward distant horizons. I drift along them effortlessly, guided by a comforting certainty that the hush remains everywhere. The beach, the shrine, the night sky, all knit themselves into a single, timeless realm where footprints vanish and offerings remain, each a silent thread woven into the grand tapestry of tide and time. In that dream, the hush is a living presence, not an absence of sound, but a fullness of spirit that resonates in every heartbeat, every distant star's twinkle, every hidden chant. Even as I sink deeper into the sleep's tender hold, I remain a part of that hush, as it nurtures me with a gentle embrace, carrying me across the threshold of night into the boundless tranquility of rest.